So I pay money them a teeth, and them a sell out the beach. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy Kenyan, we can't buy time. You can't for me again. Can't for me again. You can't for me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch a blind and a resort to crime. You can't for me again. Promise to big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The hundred the promises done and them not deliver. Cut up the youth and rough and it's down in the whatever. Them a pull money and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them smell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell go mash up people start and beef when them spell it on me. On the tree market man, on them a tree they cat man, on the tree the peanut man, on them a tree the dirt man, on them a tree the sun man, on them a tree policeman, on them a tree soldier man. Global TV send another one. Oh, 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 oh. Global TV, I send them home. Yeah, man, this is Michael Buckley. I tell you, say, yo, the Global TV, yeah, man, me represent that 100%. Play the music, Global. Boom, shell.
She, not talk to me. Right. Now talk about me for my night. Never bring me come here. Get the fucking hell.
So you reach her?
You don't know? You don't black no! How me reach her? Go on your way.
Don't talk to me, go talk to she. How Juliet reach ya? That we want to ask tonight. How Juliet reach ya? But call the gangster. Call the gunslinger. Call the criminal. Who are we talking about? That one. Call Patrick Bailey, sweetheart. Alando Terry, bend over. Call Patrick Bailey, sweetheart. Call the gangster, the rebel, the political backroad slayer. Call her. Please bridle my tongue tonight. Bridle my tongue tonight. Good night and welcome to Gentleman versus John Crow. Good night to you all. Good night to my community of party. Good night to all my family members. Good night to all my YouTube members. Good night to all my subscribers. Good night to everyone on the live and in the chat. I want to say a big thank you to exactly 177 of you new globalists who has came on board since our last broadcast this evening. Thank you very much for your support. We appreciate all of you. My team of globalist moderators are always here to make sure all of you are welcome. Sunshine, good evening. Good evening to Beat and Teach. How you doing? Good evening and welcome. Rosemary Samuels. Amazing Grace, good evening. Denise Hall. Novelet Blake, real sweet. Good evening and welcome. Good evening to Judith Jamison. Good evening and welcome. Kate M. Good evening. Colleen Humphries. Good evening. JamaicanTV.com. Good evening. Good evening. Please like and share the live, please. Natalia Freeman, how are you? How are you, Natalia? Good evening and welcome. Winston Dawkins. Good evening. Good evening, Kareem Wilson. Good evening and welcome. Good evening, Hugh Robotham. Good evening and welcome. Arlene Benbows. Good evening. EM. Good evening, Hugh Robotham. Good evening. JC. Good evening and welcome. Good evening. Good evening. Bridle my tongue this evening. Good evening and welcome, Rose East. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Millicent Jones, Lenford Wilson. Mary Messenger TV, Jamaican Carlos, how are you, bro? Good evening and welcome. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Make sure, Darren Daly, you all like and share the live, because we have some important questions to ask this evening. We will drag in whoever we feel like tying our horse to tonight and give them a good drag down the road. We certainly shall do that. Minister for Women, Diversity, all sort of the gender equality for Juliet. Christine Gilbert, good evening and welcome. Judas. Oh, no, Jude. Jude, good evening and welcome. Sorry, I think that would be Juliet or Judy for short for Juliet or Judy, I would imagine. Like and share the live, people. Like and share the live. We have very important questions to ask. Where is Patrick Bailey's sweetheart, Alanda Terrellon? Where is Patrick Bailey's sweet? Hey, Nesta Morgan. Hey. Nesta Morgan, hire me. Hire me, Nesta Morgan. I can chat. I will just a flatter. I go along to Nesta Morgan. Hire me to take you out of hiding. I can chat, Mr. Morgan. Breaking news. Good evening and welcome to Breaking News on Global Television. Nesta Morgan is been in hiding from avoiding to be served lawsuit from Wilford Rattigan, reasoning with Rattigan. Even the server who turned up to the Parliament was severely abused by Nesta and guards, whether it be police or others, at our gracious house. Nesta said, send it, go give me lawyer. So dear Nesta Morgan, please let us know in public who the lawyer is for the Nesta Morgan, the MP, the member of cabinet. Otherwise, Mr. Morgan, we are going to come drop it off right at your constituency office. So whether you want to get it, Delroy Henry, Dorothy Elliott, Michelle Lewis Wilson, God give. Whether you want to get it or you don't want to get it, I can break the story to you this evening that Mr. Rattigan lawsuit, Jackie Graham. Mr. Rattigan lawsuit is ready to be served, and Nesta is in a woeful state of hiding. The crab hole that Nesta has fallen in. The crab hole has gone deeper. The Kafan Roman Morris slap him and in dropping at the crab hole, in continue downward spiral into the crab hole. I wonder if you reach the water part of the crab hole yet, Nesta Morgan, VM. Good evening and welcome. Sharon Powell, how are you? But I can break it to you tonight that Nesta is in hiding from Mr. Rattigan and his lawsuit. VM, good evening. So for once more, Nesta have good reason to hide. The social media expert. I don't even think I have him anywhere already in my queue here. The social media expert is in hiding. The social media expert is dodging lawsuit. Serve it to my lawyer, he said. Who is your lawyer, Mr. Morgan? Who is Mr. Morgan's lawyer? That if you cannot accept the lawsuit, Mr. Morgan, and it is to be served on your lawyers, who are they? What is the firm that the lawsuit should be served? Anaganga Singer, your lawyer. Me no know, but we are going to find out, because I'm sure you would have responded to lawsuit in the past, Mr. Morgan, would you not? I'm sure Mr. Romain Morris would be able to help us with some information as to who Nesta Morgan's legal team is, because I'm sure there's a lawsuit between Nesta Morgan and Mr. Morris. So I'm sure there's a legal back and forth. So I'm sure he'll be able to help us so we can get it served to Nesta Morgan lawyer, which him suggests it's served to. Call the murderer. Who are we talking about? Orlando Terryland. Patrick Bailey's sweetheart. Who is Patrick Bailey? The former lawyer, now debarred for fraud by the legal general counsel. Your Prime Minister Andrew Holness's former lawyer, the murderer who in his house, a young man that Patrick Bailey was saving millions of his money, was murdered brutally in Patrick Bailey's 155-acre mansion. Camilla McNeil. In Patrick Bailey 155-acre mansion. Because if not be so, then Patrick Bailey would have must hear something and go on in his house if I know him do it. But because we knew this is the sweetheart, the darling of Patrick Bailey, then this darling of Patrick Bailey also spends a lot of time at Patrick Bailey's house. Were you there the night when Jermaine was murdered? But that's not really the point of my conversation with Orlando Terry Bendover tonight. My line of conversation with Orlando is the race row going on in Britain. The Jamaica Labour Party, the sitting party in government. Orlando Terry Long headed Stacey, good evening and welcome. Stacey, me and go mad now. Orlando Terry Long headed the Global Diaspora Council. No know the fango dango between the government and those culprits. Have you heard anything from Orlando Terry Long with regards to the race row involving our Jamaican Diane Abbott? Diane Abbott, who've paved the way for all of the black women you see in the British Parliament today. Kirk Edwards. That road was paved for them by Diane Abbott, Millicent Jones. Can anyone remind me if they've heard anything from Orlando Terry Long with regards to the issue that Dr. Alfred Dawes spoke about? Have any of you heard anything from Orlando Terry Long, given his diaspora anything? Beat and Teach, Debbie, Patricia Matthews, all I know. Uno from Orlando Terry Long. In the Jamaica Labour Party, on this particular issue that involves the diaspora, that involves us over Yatson, should Kamina Johnson Simmet, the board neck, garling looking Kamina Johnson Simmet, because they might cheat the thing. Nigel Clark behind the ring. Come here, Batman. Come here. Line up because me coming to you. You know, I get personal, so we are going to get personal too. Line up. Come behind the murderer Babsy. Because we're dealing with Terry Bendover at the moment. So come behind Babsy, Nigel Clark. Line up. Come behind Babsy. Come behind Babsy this evening. We're going to line up and also call both of the Prime Minister concubines in the Parliament, the baby mother and Mrs. Crawford Holness. Line them up back at one another. Orlando Terry deal with the diaspora. Noel Williams, good evening. You have just become a new member to the globalist team. You should all buy your membership. You know, we have membership as cheap as $2.99. And at some point, some context, when we have to go rob people like Babsy, unbridled, we have to go do it under membership. So people like Tone Deaf, Karen Cross don't get into a hissy fit. That's all you're going to get. So thank you very much for that, Noel. But in the Jamaica Labour Party at the moment, two of the people who should be speaking on the race row that's going on with Diane Abbott in Britain at the moment is the Minister for National Affairs, Boardneck Johnson, neck stiff like board. Also, Orlando Terrelong, who chairs the Jamaica Diaspora Council, Mavis Good. Have you heard anything from these two people? Dr. Tufton pissed in the face of the diaspora by his response to Dr. Alfred Dawes' questions. Literally pissing our face, Dr. Tufton's response. I read his letter on my last night's show. Why are they so silent? Oh, that white man, not white Mark Bowden, no, that white millionaire. That white millionaire. So all of them can look aside because we cannot upset racist Frank Hester by speaking on the Diane Abbott issue, Patrick Evans, when we've just given $5 million US dollars, James, good evening, of your taxpayers' money to this overt, racist, criminal baiting Frank Hester. And your entire Jamaica Labour Party core, who is asking you, the diaspora, to gather them and drop in our economic plate to advance or embezzlement and or misappropriation of state money. So to you, the diasporans who collect money from Orlando Terry Bendover, when racists attack you abroad, these political prostitutes don't really care about you. Their only interest is the economic advantage tied to you to advance their political circus. It is nothing about you. It is nothing about us. It is for that reason, for 50 years, 60, 70 years after independence, we're still having the same old woes and the same old cry. We still a walk on dirt road. We still a carry water upon our head. We still live behind zinc fence, and we still a bathe a stream because water flourish more there. Not a word from Orlando Terrelong, who chairs the the Global Jamaican Diaspora Council. these people who canvass the diaspora, Diane Abbott is one of the daughter of the diaspora as well. It don't matter. Her parents are Jamaican. That's what it means. Jamaican fourth, fifth, and fifth generation here. And we all we are talking about. So how come the Jamaican Labour Party is so blinded by what is happening to Diane Abbott and all of us in Britain? Never mind. Your Jamaican government is handing over your health record to that same racist who hates black women to the point where he wants to have them shot. And your government is silent. Remember, I told you all yesterday, write to the office of the Prime Minister, write to the Ministry of Health. Those of us in the diaspora, write to the embassy, also email the office of the Prime Minister and Tufton's office. All those details were given in last night's show. So this case, the Diane Abbott case, is showing us plain in the open that all they care about, just like they don't care about Jamaicans at home, all they don't care about us here either. All they care about is the economic advantage from the diaspora. Cousin Myrna, how you do? Good evening and welcome. All they care about is how much we can pump into the Jamaican economy just by even us looking after our family. That's a lot we've pumped into the Jamaican economy. They really don't care about us. It's about the revenue we can provide. Because this situation is going on in England for about 2-3 weeks now. And the Jamaican Labour Party have not spoken. The Jamaican Diaspora Council is dumb and deaf and blind to this issue. Even when the People's National Party is calling them out and say, oi, oi, oi. Let me play for you. Because this race row is hitting the Conservative Party very hard. Given in mind that the Conservative Party is a sitting government in Britain. This is a multimillionaire donor of the Conservative Party. Lana Emery, good evening and welcome. But let me tell you something. Conservative people know how to play politics because a long time they might try to get rid of Richie Sunak based on the whole race thing because they're not happy with the Indian man around them country. And a lot of the Conservatives are using this to drop like fly from the party to weaken him because some of the things that they're calling for Richie Sunak to do is not being done. And this is taking effect in the political landscape in the Conservative Party. But let's listen to this video and then we come back to Terry Bendover. Dennis Hall, good evening and welcome.
For Wells in Somerset, he won it from the Liberal Democrats. So he had a fairly healthy majority of 9,500 or so the last election. But I recall at a dinner with Sky News colleagues at a party conference not that long ago, he said it's a marginal seat. The Lib Dems will be hoping to get that back. On the subject, Kamali, of other MPs standing down, I can tell you some more breaking news. Yet another MP, and the last few seconds has announced he's going. That's Robert Halfon, the popular education minister who's MP for Harlow. He's written a letter to the Prime Minister saying that he is going to go at the next general election. So you could say a trickle of MPs has become a deluge almost. There are so many of them. Robert Harlow, of course, is a seat that Labour have held in the past, in the Blair years. Let me look up the majority for you. See, this is so new. I'm having to look up the majority. I haven't had time to do it before I come here. That's a 14,000 majority, Harlow, Mr. Halfon, over Labour. And so that's yet another minister going, a popular MP, Robert Halfon. As for Mr. Heapy, well, yesterday in defence questions, it was the regular session of defence questions, right at the beginning, the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, played a warm tribute to Mr. Heapy, who was sitting on the government front bench. Mr. Heapy looked almost embarrassed, actually. Sir Lindsay was talking about how he'd provided defence briefings to the Speaker and so on. There was a tribute from John Healey, the Shadow Defence Secretary, and then from Grant Shapps, his boss, the Defence Secretary. There are those who say that one of the reasons he might be going is that he was passed over for the top job when Ben Wallace quit, and it was given to Grant Shapps, an MP who'd had several cabinet jobs and ministerial posts. Mr. Heapy, of course, is an ex-army officer, as was Ben Wallace, and there's quite a little club, if you like, of the ex-soldiers and army officers in the Commons, of which Mr. Heapy was a leading member. And there was perhaps some disquiet among some of them that he didn't get promoted to Defence Secretary. Anyway, he is going. And as I say, Kamali, the very, very, very breaking news is that Robert Halfon's just announced he's going too.
John, the interesting thing about both of these announcements, isn't it, that these guys are ministers. It's not like they're, backbench MPs. And I'm just trying to have a quick look here as well as to the number. And I'm getting 67 Conservative MPs who are going to be standing down at the next election. You probably can correct me on that, John. But it's a big number, isn't it?
It is a big number. I mean, we're still, if the election's in October, as Jeremy Hunt was suggesting a week or so ago, then we've still got, how many months is it to go? 7 or 8 months to go. And of course, there are likely to be many, many more. Now, there have been estimates that the total will top 100 by the time we get to the general election. There are those who are hanging on for all sorts of reasons before they make an announcement. What's interesting about Mr. Halfon and Mr. Heapy is that these are relatively young men. They're in Mr. Heapy, I know, is in his 40s. Robert Halfon is a little bit older. But there's Robert Halfon, a familiar face to Sky News viewers. That looks like one of his Zoom interviews for Sky. Minister for the Education Department, used to chair the Education Select Committee, and he's going. I mean, we didn't see that one coming. Mr. Heapy let it be known a little while ago that he was going at Easter, and of course today is the day that the House of Commons certainly is rising for the Easter recess. And Mr. Heapy has given in that letter you've just mentioned, Kamali, big thanks to all the colleagues that he's worked with. Has he got another job to go to in the defence field? May he go to the House of Lords? I would have thought Ben Wallace is an absolute dead cert for the House of Lords, having been Cabinet Minister. Maybe Mr. Heapy's on his way to the Lords as well, because as we saw at defence questions yesterday, he's very, very well respected. So, yes, 60 plus Tories already going, and there have been suggestions that number could rise possibly to 100 by the time of the general election.
And John, just quick final thought. Where do these two sit in terms of sort of those factions within the Conservative Party, and what does this tell us about the Prime Minister?
Well, I think I'd probably say that these two are what you might call what some Tories would call the sensible wing of the party. They're not right-wing ideologues by any means. Robert Halfon has prided himself very much in being a blue-collar Tory, talking about the need of the Tories to appeal to working-class voters. So his loss is a big blow. It is a surprise as well.
That is political integrity, Jamaican politician. The Conservative Party is being hit hard by their own membership over this race war. And what the state of Jamaica is asking us to do, let us watch. Let us watch the development, Dr. Tufton says. The development is subject, the issue is subject of a police investigation. And we are hoping, Dr. Tufton says, that Frank Hester's company, who Dr. Tufton signed a contract with for $5 million of your money, of your money, they are telling you that we are hoping that Frank Hester's company, the Phoenix Partnership, will take action against Frank Hester, and then that will be enough for the Jamaican people. That will be enough for the billions of black women across the world that Frank Hester wants shot. The tax-paying money of millions of women that Hester wants shot. Your government is telling you, let's hope Hester organization, Hester will take action against himself. That is what your government is telling you. While this cold-blooded murderer who assisted in the murder or cover-up of Jermaine Jr., who is under a duty to speak up for the diaspora and represent the diaspora, silent as a lamb. Silent as a lamb. But because we're not protected by corrupt law enforcement and corrupt politicians, we cannot get investigated for murder and get sent to prison. Violet Watson, good evening. Look at this one. What shall we do with this? Monica Wills. What should we do with this? I'm going to play something that I have in my library. I just need to take out something so I can put in something else. I need to play something in my library. Find it and play it. So please bear with me. Before I ask Sheila some question. Before I ask Sheila some question, I wish Sheila. Because she said some things where the sojourning word, the sojourning, and all sorts of different, things they can pull out of the bag. Sojourning and all sorts. Because when them want shift the blame, them ball out misogyny, sexism. Where on earth is this video though? Oh God, it has to be in a queue. But may I go find it? Me are going to find it. But while I prepare that video, let us look at another criminal action. Babsy, you can't go behind the Prime Minister, baby mother, till me ready for you. Let us look at another criminal action, another bad man government behavior. And that we run things with we bulldozer. Hey, Lord Jesus, Jamaica people under hit, uno suffer, uno under pressure. The problem I'm having though, you, the people of Jamaica, has become so complacent to the pressure. It's like bother anymore. It's like just accept it so because boy, I saw it go. What we fit do? That is where we are at. That is where we are at. But let us look at some criminal actions from Juliet Holness. And I'm going to continue with this story tomorrow. But let us just have a look at this. I'm still searching for Babsy video to prepare it. So me just find Babsy here. Hold on there.
This is a farm that I'm still walking, as you can see, with our crops. This is all that they want to destroy. To destroy. To leave us with nothing. More pineapples over here. Coffees. Bananas. Coffees. Bananas. We're going back to where they started demolishing yesterday, where I had to step in.
It's not anything that we have not seen before. A farm, the wife, a buck down this time. But a whole heap of real life, real-time life house. We see the husband buck down, didn't we? And not only that, but God go hug up the victims the next day. This is the Jamaica we live in. This is the type of political tyranny we're going through as a people. This is type of barbarism and dictatorship, the landlessness of the Jamaican people is a great issue. And it is an existential threat, or whatever them call that word, to us, the descendant of those who they've taken from, slave them on their plantation to build Western economies. You see what the thing I go? Do you all see where it's going? Frank Hester's deal explains. Frank Hester deals explains it, that it's about the private investors. It is about the capitalists. It's not about us, the people. That's why your prime minister could stand in St. Thomas the other day and tell you that I've sorted it up here. And now that the economy has become caring, I'm going to start sharing it with you. But roll back a bit there, Babsy. Let me deal with that one here first. Coming out, go spend long on him. Batman with the ring on your finger, Nigel Clark. Remember me have a whole heap of your recording. Batman with a ring on your finger. This is our house. Do you all notice that our house has become Juliet's house? Listen to this little slow creeper.
Publicly masquerade Philip and Julian. They may not have people to speak up for them, but let me tell you this. Don't touch Juliet. Opposition leader can publicly masquerade Philip and Julian. They may not have people to speak up for them, but let me tell you this. Don't touch Juliet.
Don't touch Juliet, the man hiding behind the ring says. You see what our parliament has become? Do you see what our parliament has become? It has become a defense ground, a bully pulpit for the Jamaican Labour Party. Our parliament, our colonial institution, the protectorate, the Jamaican protectorate of the British colonial empire, the administrators of the British protectorate of the British colonial empire. You see where it all has become. And then when Mark Golding speak about conflict of interest and independency, everybody jump on them high horse tail, lift up on them back. And everybody want to rant around. Parliamentary, good evening and welcome. That even Babsy, who earned everything on her back, thrown up against Western Kingston and Spanish Town zinc fence by all sorts of young gunmen who she supplied the gun and the rent-a car for them to go around and kill their opponents. Let's hear the trollops, because they don't like when we use that nasty word. So the trollop, something when Prince Charles, the upcomer the third, Charles, was writing to Diana. Not Charles, rather, the father of Charles, referred to Diana as a trollop. So therefore, let me use the nice word, Rosie D. When I'm going to make the old horse show our feather and tail upon our back and fly around. So the Zutapec, the trollop, the old flippity gibbet, thrown up along Vince zinc fence by all sorts. Let's hear Babsy defense, because this is all what government has become about, defending the Prime Minister's baby mother.
House leader and the minister responsible for gender, I strongly object to the statement in the House of Representatives today by the leader of the opposition in which he questions the election of the Honorable Speaker on the basis that she is the spouse of the head of government. The leader of the opposition has questioned a legitimate election of the...
One thing Mark Golding surround the suburbs. Sketel Babs. You should have said the Prime Minister, baby, mother. Spouse is too much of a nice word to refer to such a hooligan.
Speaker that was undertaken by the entire House, not by some members of the House. By his statement, the leader of the opposition has brought the House into disrepute. The standing orders provide the qualification and process for a member of Parliament to be elected to the office of the Speaker. It outlines that a member has to be willing to serve in the role and must not be a minister or a parliamentary secretary. When the chair became vacant, in keeping with the standing orders, the member for St. Andrew East Rural was proposed by the member for St. Andrew Northeastern.
Madam Clerk, I beg to nominate the Member of Parliament for the great constituency of East Rural St. Andrew, Mrs. Juliet Holness, to become the Speaker of the House.
And seconded by the member for Kingston East and Port Royal.
Madam Clerk, I beg to second the motion.
There was no objection. No other person was proposed. And the member from St. Andrew East Rural, the most Honorable Juliet Holness, was duly elected Speaker. There was absolutely no objection to the Speaker's election. So it is disturbing and hypocritical that after more than 5 months after her election, that the leader of the opposition should so spectacularly question the election of this eminently qualified woman. Like all members of the House who are not ministers or parliamentary secretaries, she has the right to be considered for the post of Speaker. The two-term member of Parliament, who also served as Deputy Speaker, was elected to the Speaker's chair on merit, not because of her spouse. It is wrong, and it harks back to a bygone age before women's empowerment to say that she or any woman should be disqualified for any post because of the job of her spouse. The Speaker was duly elected by the House and is a competent and capable Speaker. I strongly object to the position that the Leader of Opposition has taken.
Let's talk about your merit, though. What is your merit? You being where you are, what is your merit? Did you work for it? Or is it because of your gangsterism and the whole heap of gunman where you can provide to threaten whoever you want threaten to? Is that's why you get where you are? Is because you shown that you were a violent gunman and gang leader? Why you've been given such a foothold in Jamaica? Is it because of is it your criminalism? What is your track record, Babsy? What are your merits, Babsy Grange? Being thrown up by a zinc fence by young gangsters. Every one other man run through Babsy like rats, like mangoes are run through cane field. What are your merits, Babsy Grange? It has all become about Juliet Holness. The business of the people has been on pause since Mark Golden spoke. Since Mark Golden spoke, the business of the people is on pause. And everything is about defending Juliet. We know that never happened, Noel. This is the propaganda that Babsy get up and make it look like misogyny, sexism, and all sort of things. Why then is Babsy not involved in this argument that concerns Diane Abbott, Minister of Woman, Gender Equality? I know the whole of them something there. Above the portfolio. The whole of they make up a nasty story them to soothe the spirit so you don't rebel against them. Honorable Skettle, Sunshine says. Or this honorable Skettle suit them, yes. Honorable Skettle suit them. What is your claim to fame, Babsy Grange? Is it on your back, or did you get there by using your brain? Which was it, Babsy? Brain or back? Type in the chat. Brain or back, Babsy? How did you get there?
See, now talk to me! Right. Now talk about me for my eyes. You Never bring me come here. Get the fucking hell. So you reach her. You don't know? You don't black no! How me reach her? Why are you waiting?
How you reach ya, Babsy? Babsy, how you reach ya? What's your claim to fame, Babsy? What's your merit, Babsy Grange? Because Gillette reached upon merit. Gillette a hard working woman. But him and Nigel said, touch if you're bad. What is your claim to fame? Because we host. Colin said back. We host has become Gillette player host. Gillette full cub. But Gillette can't keep him cock na rooster in. Gillette full cub. The business of the people since Mark Golden spoke in the parliament has been on pause. When Gillette now attacked Dr. Mrs. Monroe Ellis, him and Valerie Curtis plan up something for further confuse we. How much were you paid, Mrs. Curtis, to be thrown brutally under the bus? Even by taking a hit on your professional file, a letter stating that there are derelictions in your duty. How much were you paid to be thrown under the bus? How much were you been paid to carry the dereliction of duty into further employment with you? Or is it another strand of the game to let us keep them, send the fool, Easter, first thing there, I come. So you see them play this, send the little fool a little further, because all fool there, just round corner there, so. Send the fools a little bit. And that I play with this whole Auditor General Integrity Commission report, because the facts are the Auditor General report is a report from the Integrity Commission. Wholeness work and separate things when in a suit him, such as the whole Portmore Municipal Corporation and all of that. You think it's a Miss Phil Wilmple situation, Carlos? But whatever it is, whether it's a Phil Wimple or this is a total new casting of spell over the people. But our house has become the disorganized family playground. When Wholeness now jar Rhoda in a private office, Juliet have to pass Rhoda with a heart a bus. I'm sorry for you, I'm sorry for every day you get up with a bus heart. I'm a warn you and tell you from the other night, say, any man you see carry a mate to come right up in your face, where you have to look pan every day. You do something to the man that why him a torment you. How will you do to Andrew Juliet? Best baby father, said the Prime Minister. How is your daughter, Mr. Wholeness? Yes, the one that lives in the United States, that is older than Juliet's first son. How is your daughter? Just asking, Prime Minister. And your girlfriend in England that does the meat import thing, how is she doing? How is her business getting on, Prime Minister? Is her business doing fine? Juliet a holy pano. holy uno, Juliet. Holy pound. He have them line up so when he got, you see him got foreign together. Have you seen Juliet Holness, the Prime Minister, travels with the First Lady? You see them something that happen? You don't see other First Lady and Prime Minister. Hey, look, yes, so yes, yeah. You don't see when other presidents and prime ministers are traveling. Are them and the First Lady of the country, is it not? How much time on see the Prime Minister traveling in official capacity traveled with the First Lady? Hands up. First concubine, more like. No. Second baby mother, more like. We're going to drag you till you get up out of a chair. We're going to drag you until you get up out of a chair. We're going to drag you until you get up out of a chair. It become plating, Juliet. First Jezebel, then he says. How much time have you seen your Prime Minister travels with the First Lady? You barely see Donald Trump go anywhere without Marlena. When Barack goes anywhere, it used to be him and so and so. Have you seen the First Lady? Have you seen the First Lady traveling with the Prime? Check for anybody, Juliet, and see if any of the time that Andrew goes to the United States of America, if Rhoda Crawford is in the United States at the same time. Can you check that for us? While you're checking, Elder Fletcher, while you're checking on certain dates of report, also check to see as well if there's a timeline connection to Andrew Holness travels in the United States, to Rhoda being in New York or other places in the US of A. Just ask him. It has all become about Juliet. It has all become about Juliet. The business of the people has been cancelled in our house. And everything is all about the defense of Juliet Holness. But no, there's no conflict of interest. No, there is total independence here in her work. It has no bearing. None of her decision has no bearing that she's covering for her boyfriend, her baby father. No, it's all about Juliet. And Babs did not say nothing what happened to Diane Abbott in Britain. Diane Abbott, who make it possible for all these black women you see in the British Parliament today, she made that possible. That woman stand on the front line of justice for the black community in Britain. But because of the allegiance with the Jamaica Labour Party and the British Conservative Party and their business dealings with the racist Hester, Frank Hester, the Jamaican government is rather silent on sexism and racial abuse, while Babs Grange, the one-order slut, is calling out Mark Golden on those very issues, but the same Babs the Grange is rather blind and dumb, deaf to all of what's been going on in the diaspora. But this same Babs the Grange represent woman, represent gender, equality. Am I a fool or are them a fool? Because you know, when them talk, them expect if you believe them. One order cougar. The one order cougar, that's your new name. I know me, sister Babsy. A WikiLeaks say you buy a gun and car, give them. Don't look in my face like me make up story upon you. Ask WikiLeaks. Boy and one other little boy them. How much time them dead in your car, them Babsy? What is your merit? Your claim to fame? You said Juliet got there on merit, Babsy. If you're talking about getting there on merit, you have to speak about a woman like Diane Abbott, who never had it easy. But one thing for sure, this woman never give up or never stand down. She's always on the front line to defend Black people. She's always there to raise the issues of Black people in the British Parliament. Yes, that Jamaican, Babs the Grange. That Jamaican, one order cougar. That Jamaican woman, Diane Abbott, created history in this country. And not a tainted history like Paula Llewellyn created. The first but most corrupt DPP. But Diane Abbott was the first Black female British politician, longest serving, and one that has stepped aside with her integrity, Babs the Grange. One that nobody can tell you, say, she buy gun and drugs and car, Babs the Grange. Give young men to go and kill themselves. What Diane Abbott championed in the British Parliament and many annual conference, Babs the Grange, is the education, the model education for young Black boys in Britain, Babs the Grange, so they can understand their history and their culture in context to today's Britain. That's what that political stalwart Diane Abbott championed in Britain. And she has faced tantamount to racism and backlash in the British media, the Jewish lobby, and the British Conservative Party, which is an ongoing and continuous race row that your Jamaican government have a $5 million US deal with and is hoping, we're hoping that Hester will discipline himself and all will be over. Why should we bother about the Jamaican women? Hester can't be racist if he's doing business with us, can he? Can Hester be racist if Hester is doing business with the Jamaican government? Let's listen to Dr. Dawes once more on the issue.
Between the Ministry of Health and Wellness and the Phoenix Partnership because of the recent allegations of racial abuse meted out to a Jamaican, Diane Abbott, who is the longest serving member of Parliament of the UK, by the head of the Phoenix Partnership, Mr. Frank Hester. Now, we take this personally because Miss Abbott has been a proud representative of Jamaica. Her parents were a part of the Windrush generation, and she has maintained her Jamaican roots. the public outcry in the UK right now, with thousands demonstrating against Mr. Hester and his company, with even calls for the Tory party to return over 10 million, maybe $15 million in donations that were made by Mr. Hester, and even calls for the National Health Service to cancel the contracts that are currently held by the Phoenix Partnership. Now, we here in Jamaica must be outraged, because what has come out in recent weeks is that Lord Marland has said that Mr. Hester cannot be racist because he does lots of business with Jamaica. So Jamaicans are being used as a stamp of approval to say that this overt racist is not of that type of leaning. Now, we cannot allow our proud history of resistance against oppression and discrimination in any form to be tainted by this action. Furthermore, it is very concerning that the request for proposals for this contract to digitize our health records was initially $2.4 million, yet the contract that was signed by the Phoenix Partnership was valued at $5 million. This variation of over 100% is very concerning in light of the cost overruns for the Cornwall Regional Hospital Rehabilitation Project, which has moved from $2 billion to $20 billion. And the fact that the Ministry of Health and Wellness is one of two ministries that has been fingered in the inability to account for over $1.3 trillion, more than 40% of our GDP. The other ministry being the Ministry of Education, that was headed by Royal Reid. Now, that plus the fact that $400 million has not been properly accounted for in COVID expenditure, that variation of over 100% in this contract alone raises several eyebrows. And the Ministry of Health needs to shed some light on its stance morally and in terms of transparency and accountability as to why there was such a massive variation in the size of this contract. And if there is any consideration to cancelling this contract on a moral basis, as we stand with the diaspora and Black Britons and their supporters in support of Diane Abbott.
Christopher Tufton respond to the contract pricing. The one for $5 million was the more suitable one. How did you come to that decision? By what way of reasoning, Dr. Tufton, did you come to the decision that the more expensive it is the more suitable it is, given that we are in an era of fiscal prudence? An era of fiscal prudence. But let us remind ourselves of Mark Golden's powerful press conference of what really got us to where we are a week on.
Today was a sad day for our democracy, in the sense that for the first time, the government in Parliament walked out during a budget debate and prevented the leader of the opposition from completing his presentation, denying the Parliament of a quorum, so the Speaker had no choice but to end the proceedings. And I, as leader of the opposition, was unable to finish my presentation. I didn't say anything offensive about anybody. I made a point of principle, which is that it doesn't sit well with the tradition in our parliamentary system, which requires the Speaker of the House to be independent of the government, for the wife of the Prime Minister, who's the head of government, to be the Speaker, which is effectively the head of Parliament. And these concerns are not just my concerns. Many Jamaicans feel that way. It's really a very unusual situation. And indeed, the Prime Minister, who in an emotional fit stood up and walked out and precipitated the situation which brought the proceedings to an end, really himself reinforced the validity of the point I was making, that there needs to be proper independence between the Speaker and the government, and by virtue of them being spouses, there is none. That was the point I was making. And her conduct, Mrs. Holness's conduct, has given rise to concerns by not tabling the reports of the Auditor General on a timely basis as they arrive. There are reports which have been, I'm told, reached Parliament from January, which have 2 Auditor General performance audit reports that have not been tabled. By determining that certain reports of the Integrity Commission must be sent to an oversight committee within Parliament, which is dominated by the government side and chaired by the government side, before those reports are tabled and made public. These are issues of grave concern to me, as somebody who believes in the parliamentary system and in democracy, and indeed for many Jamaicans. So this is why I thought it was essential to make this point in my presentation. And the reaction of the Prime Minister to it reinforced my concerns. Furthermore, Mrs. Holness has refused to make public or even share with us as members of Parliament and senators the legal opinion which she claims justifies the position she's taken. If that is the case, then why isn't she sharing it with us? It wasn't given to her in her personal capacity. It was sent because it concerns matters affecting Parliament in a very fundamental way. To deprive the Parliament of the benefit of that legal opinion is itself an egregious act, inconsistent with transparency in the way we conduct our parliamentary affairs. What I believe happened was that when the speech was shared in Parliament and the Prime Minister saw the points that were coming after the point I was making, he decided to take this action because he didn't want me to have the opportunity of making those points in Parliament in front of him. And what are those points that I'm referring to? The next point I was going to make was that the illicit 6, which is a matter of grave concern in the country, is another instance where governance in Jamaica is being brought to a low ebb, where 6 MPs are under investigation for illicit enrichment. And the Prime Minister not only has declined to make public who they are, but has put a gag order on his cabinet forbidding them from talking to the media on any issues relating to the Integrity Commission. And the point I was going to make after that was that the Prime Minister, as head of government, cannot be in a situation where he is not in good standing with the Integrity Commission of the country. He has failed to have his statutory declaration certified. And that statutory declaration lists his assets, his liabilities, and his income. And for successive years, the Integrity Commission has not certified and published a summary.
The only reason why Andrew Holness can behave like this is because none of the 40 thieves have any morals or political integrity. None of them has any humanity within them. It's all about the power, the status, and the cash. Therefore, the bunch of 40 thieves will go along with whatever Holness in his majority illegitimately decided to heap on the country. This race war in Britain, the Conservative Party is using it to topple Richie Sunak to pull him down. But yet, your ruling Conservative Party in Jamaica is rather silent on the issue because of a lucrative business dealing with the racist, murderous inciter, abating and aiding murder. Frank Hester, Jenny, good evening. Because of a lucrative deal with them, the entire state of Jamaica, the Jamaican government, is in a woeful silence. Not only that, but in agreement with racism and sexism by allowing Lord Marlon, in defense of Frank Hester, to say that Hester cannot be racist. Of course, Hester does business with about a 90% black population, Jamaica. How could Hester be racist? No, not the Hester that wants to kill all black women in the silence of this one here. No, not at all. Beulah, Ubuntu, Ubuntu. How you all doing? Me know so quite a few on a pass me eye when me dey lavish. But you know it's not intentional, Colleen Jones. All of you, good evening, good evening. If I have missed any one of you, Brittany Lyon, Blue Waves, good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Faye Lyons, good evening. I want to answer to something one of my globalists typed in the after chat today. Why do I have to say good evening to everybody? It is one of the highest standards in customer service. Anyone enters your business or your place of work must be greeted. And the person that enters your business space to spend 1 penny, as well as the person that enters your business place to spend $1,000, must receive the same welcome and greeting. So it is customer service, just to respond to that question. The cycle of the war of words. The cycle of the war of words. The war of words. Who do you believe of the three? Did Miss Ellis not do her job properly, rather? Was there a dereliction? Master Essay, how are you? Was there a dereliction in the duty of Valerie Curtis, the clerk of the House? Or is the Prime Minister baby mother just a woeful liar, a miserable deceiver? Who do you believe in the war of words amongst these three women? These three professionals, one of whom we're told is independent and self-made, with merit behind her, and, as Nigel with the ring says, people to defend her, Sharon Peart. Who of the three do you believe is lying, incompetent, misinforming you, confusing you? Who do you think? Which of these women in this recent war of words, who do you believe? Because in Juliet's letter, it would appear that she has spoken to Valerie and Valerie is asking more time to check on these things. But when the media people reach out to Valerie, Valerie is not quite aware of what Juliet is talking about. But you notice these Jamaica Labour Party people are very much unaware. Wasn't it the same thing with Nigel and the SSL letter that was on his desk that has dust and cobweb. It was also the same thing with the man, the one where pray off of the piece of paper in a parliament, where the Integrity Commission a try for contact to no avail, and him say him available. Is it not again the same thing with Mr. Rattigan serving his lawsuit and the Minister of Blabbermouth? Minister Sosa Mouth is in hiding because he doesn't want to accept the jurisdiction of Mr. Rattigan's lawsuit. But you could have stuck your head in the sand like Astrid. We will stuck it up your rear end, Nesta Morgan. You will take jurisdiction of that. And you will, Mr. Morgan, respond to it. Do you want to settle out of court? Or do you want to be dragged and embarrassed in the courts? Which do you choose? My advice would be ask Mr. Rattigan, how much do you want? I will settle for your price. How much, Minister Buglife? Uhuru, Uhuru. Freedom. Good evening and welcome. If you don't want to accept it, Nesta Morgan, we're going to make sure you get it. And my advice to you, ask Mr. Rattigan to open up his pocket and tell you how much you want, and you just turn out the crocus bag. Don't bother going on in negotiation. Pay as big as your mouth. You're paying for the size of your mouth, Nesta Morgan. You're paying for the size of your mouth. So just make sure you shake the crocus back, because Mr. Rattigan is hitting you hard where it hurts. And be sure he's going to get money out of you. I'm not asking you that, Nesta Morgan. Oh, no, said. I thought Buchanan hardly lose case, especially when the thief in miserable tyrannical government. Run, Nesta Morgan, but you cannot hide. Run, but you certainly can't hide. Let's listen to a bit of the bang around between the war of words.
2022-2024 demanded that Clerk of the Houses of Parliament, Valerie Curtis, provide several updates in relation to alleged outstanding Auditor General reports. Well, Nika Lewis has joined us.
Thanks, Caroline. All right, so this letter that we have received is a 2-page document, and it saw Mrs. Holness, the Speaker of the House, reprimanding Ms. Curtis for allegedly failing to comply with the Speaker's ruling in relation to how Auditor General's reports must be handled when it comes to the Parliament. Now, of course, some of these letters date back as far as November last year, as well as December, and the Speaker notes that Ms. Curtis, who is the Clerk of the Houses of Parliament, that she says that the ruling of the House in relation to the Auditor General reports were breached by the clerk, that's Ms. Curtis, which Mrs. Holness says was a clear dereliction of duties. Now she says this thereby brings the Parliament into disrepute, having to answer to her colleagues who are demanding these outstanding documents that are yet to be presented to the Parliament. Now there's a keen section that I'm paying attention to. This section, it says, it is therefore imperative that you prepare a schedule, and this is from Mrs. Holness to Ms. Curtis. It is imperative that you prepare a schedule that shows the details of all reports received from the Integrity Commission and the Auditor General since my election as Speaker of the House on September 26, 2023. Now, in addition to that, it says the schedule must outline the date the reports were received by the registry, the date delivered to the Speaker, the date tabled in the Parliament, the relevant sections of the Act under which they were tabled, and the date of any correspondence or correspondences to the Auditor General relating to said report. This information, she says, must be submitted no later than Wednesday, March 27, 2024 at noon And she says this is to facilitate in reference to Ms. Curtis's request for an extension. And she's also saying she'd like communication to be provided to the relevant staff to ensure compliance as well as adherence to the established rules and procedures, in particular the Deputy Clerk, the Legislative Council, along with the respective secretaries. The letter is also said to be, it will be placed, she added, on Ms. Curtis's file. This is major. And of course, we did place a call to Ms. Curtis because we wanted to hear her side. She said she was unaware of this letter and she was out of office today, but she has requested time to go through this letter. Calls to the Speaker of the House went unanswered. It's back.
Underwater, London Bridge, underwater. Douglas Allen, Flo M, JP, Jeanette Riley, Arlene Foster, Douglas Allen, and everyone. Good evening and welcome. Good evening. London Bridge underwater. Let me say this to you, on the wholeness. At this point, you're never going to get it right. Clear the way for somebody else. Make space for somebody else. You and your wife, pack up and go on and enjoy the hope of stolen money. Paula, Andrew, and Juliet must go. The embarrassment that Paula Llewellyn, Andrew Holness, and Juliet Holness has brought upon our country, it's time for a collective call across the country and across the diaspora. Pack up and go. Andrew Holness, Paula Llewellyn, and Juliet Holness have disgraced our country enough on the international scene. The people, the business of the people of Jamaica needs to get back on track. And with these tyrants, these despots, let us read Dennis Hall. Good evening. Our country is spiraling. Our country is spiraling out of control. Our country has become a family entertainment. Our country and its politics has become a battle of he said, she said, I did not, I don't know, I never see, I never heard. That is what our Jamaica politics has become. I want to thank you all for being here with us on Global Television this evening. And thanks to those of you who continue to subscribe. We are at 12.2K at the moment. Thank you all very much for your support. Thanks to Noel Williams for his membership. We now have 3 members on Global TV. Debbie Jervis, Sandra Ellis, and Noel Williams. Thank you all very much for being here tonight. We hope to see you back here tomorrow, where we will continue look at the criminalization of the landlessness of Jamaican people by the sitting government, the wife of the Prime Minister, one that takes experience from the husband who ramrod bulldozers through your house. Lenworth, good evening and welcome. So thank you all for being here this evening. I hope you have enjoyed the program. Walk good, and we'll definitely be back here to see you all tomorrow. Sharon Powell and everyone. Good evening and thank you for joining us. And this was Gentleman versus Jankro. Good night from Global Television.